And let's share the screen. Okay, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So today we're going to talk about a very important and a very powerful concept called as dynamic apex. Okay. Now, what is dynamic apex and when will you use dynamic apex? So, for example, when you are creating frameworks, mostly like a trigger framework, and you don't know the object at the compile time, you will know it at the runtime. So, it's dynamically you will know. So in that case, as the name indicates, we will use something called as dynamic apex. Now, dynamic apex is a way to write apex code that decides what objects, fields, or logic to use at runtime instead of compiling. So when you write a code, when you save it, that's the compilation happening. When you actually execute the program at the runtime, you will know what is the object that will be passed. So in order to, that's when we will use something called as dynamic apex, and the code will adapt based on what object it is, what the input is. So it's while running the program, it will figure out those things. So
Deepika, Deepika,
yes.
what would be a business use case for dynamic? Can you just
So dynamic apex business use case would be like, as I mentioned, like creating a framework, like trigger framework. So that you will write a trigger framework, and depending upon what object you are passing at the runtime, you will use something like that. Or let's say you have a project, and we will do this project in the class where you want a list of all the objects that are there in the org, and based upon what object the user has selected, you wanted to display the fields for that object, things like that. Or you want to convert from one object records to another object records. So these are certain use cases for dynamic apex. When you're not sure what object will be passed at the runtime, and you will get that value at the runtime, that's when you will use dynamic apex. Up till this point, we were using either a count object or a lead object, an opportunity. We knew at the compilation that what the object it's going to be, and we know the fields for the object. But when you are unsure what the object will be, when you're unsure which object you have chosen, which field you're talking, until it's the runtime, that's when you will use dynamic apex. So mostly for trigger frameworks, you will use dynamic apex, or something like when you have to display the list of objects, then the user will select the list of objects, and then based on that, you want to know what fields for the object, things like that. Does that make sense?
um,
So that is the one of the use cases is the dynamic apex. And another important one that you can think of is when you are talking to like an integration system, and they are sending records of different types, and you have to figure it out based on the data they are sending, then in that case you will use dynamic apex. But when you already know the object, so don't go for dynamic apex or use static apex. Static apex means when you actually know what the object is, the fields, etc. So don't write always dynamic apex. 90% of the time you will use static apex where you know the objects and stuff. And 10% of the time you will end up using dynamic apex. So when you are creating generic utilities means it will be used by any object. In that case, you will use dynamic apex. Um, so these are certain examples and the use cases of dynamic apex. I hope that makes sense.
that helps?
Okay. So the next one is so at the runtime, so there is a class called schema class, and there are certain methods which will give you the list of objects. From the list of objects, if you want to fetch the list of fields, then you can do another method you can call. So you basically use a class called schema. That is the name of the class and the methods of that class, and that will give you those objects and the fields, etc. So Dynamic Apex allows you to work with objects and fields that are not known in advance. So when you don't know what fields you're working with, then you will use Dynamic Apex when you have to build SOQL queries at runtime. So for example, a user has selected account object. Now you want to show all the fields of the account object. So that is happening at the runtime. You don't know beforehand. If you want to access field values dynamically, in that case, you will use it. So one of the method that we have is called as a get global describe. Now, this global describe basically will return all the objects that are available. So remember, this schema and this schema is completely different. This schema is a namespace for this, and S object is the type, is the class, whereas schema, this one is a class name, and get global describe is the method. So when you use this schema dot of get global describe, it is going to return all the objects that are there in your org. It could be standard objects like account, lead, opportunity. And if you have created any custom objects, those will also be returned by this global describe. Okay. Now, once you have returned all the objects, let's say you want a specific field, a specific object's information. So then you will specify schema dot of S object type dot get describe. So let's say you want to get information on the account. So you will use account dot S object type dot get describe. So this is going to give you the metadata, means data about the data for a specific object. So what object in this case would be? It would be an account object. Okay. So get global describe is going to give you all the objects information. Then if you want an information about a specific object, then in that case, you will go ahead and use the object name, the account, and then the fields. So get describe will tell you the fields, is it accessible, is it not accessible, all that information. Now, if you want, this is only giving you the account metadata. Now, from the account metadata, if you also want to know what fields the object has, so then you will use dot fields dot get map. So this is going to give you fields information. Now, if you want to know about a specific field, then you will use the object name, the fields dot get, and the field name dot of get describe. So first you will have is the get global describe. That is going to give you all the objects. Then you will go ahead and from the objects, if let's say you want a particular object, then you will use account.s object type dot of describe. This will give you the account objects metadata. Now, if you want the fields of the object, then you will use account.fields.getMap. That is going to give you the field information. If you want a specific field information, let's say you want pick list values for a particular field, so you will use fields.get from the fields, get the industry field and get the describe on that. So this will give you the metadata for the industry field. Any questions, guys, up till this point?
So Deepika, we will first always get the object and then the fields, right?
Yes, because
Right.
you want to know. So for
Right.
example,
It will be multiple records if we
yes,
just go field. Okay.
because you need to know of which object you want to get the fields.
Right. Yeah.
So first you will get the objects, or let's say dynamically you are passing the object name, and from that object name you can get the fields.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll explain to you this code where what we are doing is we are first fetching all the objects that the user has access to. Okay. So this is the class we have, accessible objects util. So we'll go ahead and let me first write down this class, and then I'll explain to you what we are doing. And I also have at the end a small mini project using Lightning Web Components. And from Lightning Web Components, we will display and fetch all that information. So I'll show you that also. So file, new, Apex class, and this is the accessible objects util, and then this is the method that it has, and what it actually has is, okay, so now let's understand what we are doing. So the first thing is, this is the method get accessible objects, means the name of the method is get accessible objects, and it is going to return you back a list of string. Okay. And we are creating a list of all the objects. So we're creating an empty list here. This is just a list of string. The name of the list is accessible objects. Here, this is the class. Okay, schema is the name of the class. Get global describe is the name of the method. This is going to give you all the objects that are available in your org. Okay, doesn't matter. It's a standard, it's a custom, doesn't matter. And what is the return type of this? So if you go over to get global describe of the schema class and you look over this method in the Salesforce documentation, it will give you back a map. Okay, so here, if you go here, so you can see it's a map of string and schema.s object type. Now, schema.s object type basically is S object type is the class name and schema is the namespace. So remember, namespace is nothing but a folder name. Inside of that folder, you have a class. So this is not the same as schema class. This is the namespace name, and this is going to give you all the string means the name of the object and the object type. Is it an account object? Is it a custom contact object? What it is. So then what you're doing is you're iterating over the keys of this map, which is nothing but all the objects. Okay, so if you see here, if you go here to this, returns a map of all the S object names to S object tokens, values for the standard and custom objects. So it is going to give you the name of all the object, which will be the key, and the object tokens means the S object type. Okay, if you want to fetch more information on that object, then you can use this class and then methods of this class to get information on the fields, metadata, and all of that. So this is the global describe here. And then what you're doing is you are using get describe. So get object name. So it will give you the metadata for the object. So object name, let's say first time will be account, dot of get describe on that means you are basically getting more information about the object. So from that result, there is a method called is accessible, means it will tell you is the user, current user has access to the object or not. If it has access to the object, then it is adding that object over to this list. Okay, so first of all, one more time, let me explain. So here you are getting all the objects that are available. Some of the objects you might have access to, some of the objects you might not have access to, but this will return all objects. Then what you're doing, you are iterating over the key set. If you remember in the map, we have two functions. One is the values function and the other one is the key set function. So key set function, what does it do? Do you remember what is the difference between values function and the key set function? Guys, speak up. Are you forgetting what we have taught earlier?
Actually, I couldn't hear anything for last 2-3 minutes. What was it?
Is everybody else is having the same issue?
No, I
heard you.
I just can't remember the key set.
Key set, I can't remember either. The value,
Matching
the value of the.
both the values and the key set, both will, I mean,
So in the map, what you have?
you have values and key set.
You have values and keys.
Yes.
Right? So key set will give you all the keys of this map, and values will give you all the values of this map.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So now in this case, we are iterating. Now, what is the keys here? Keys is nothing but the name of the objects. Okay, so we are iterating over all of those keys like lead, account, etc. And then what we're doing is, so object name at one point would be lead, the next time it might be account, then that will be contact. And then we are doing get describe on that object name. Okay, so what is that going to give it to you? It is going to give you metadata about that object. So far you are not fetching the fields. I haven't done get fields and all of that information. It's only giving me metadata about the object, which includes things like does this user is this object accessible, is it creatable, is it deletable, things like that. Okay, now there is
Oh,
a
so
yeah,
sorry. So it doesn't give the schema,
fields. It
fields
gives you
also,
the
fields or the
fields it
API
won't
names.
give you. At this
Okay.
point, it is not giving you the fields. Until you do fields dot of other stuff, we will see how to get the fields also. But
Okay.
this is only giving you the metadata of the account object, which doesn't include all the fields. Because
Okay.
in order to call the fields, you have to do another field map and then get describe on that also. That will give you the field information.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay.
this will give you check. There's a method available in this describe result class called is accessible, which basically checks does this user has access to the object. So it'll look into the permission set, look at the profile, all of that. And based on that, the value either going to be true or false. And if it is true, if the user has access to the object, it will add that object name to this list. Okay. And then we are basically sorting it, all the names, probably whatever the sort is going alphabetically order. And it is returning you this list of all the names of the objects. Okay, so how do I call this? Very simple. I'm going to call this is a static method. So I will just call accessible objects util dot of get accessible objects. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this using this here. So I'm calling this method from the accessible objects util class. The method name is get accessible objects. We are iterating over all the keys, nothing but if you remember, this is giving you the list of objects. So we're iterating over all the objects and it is giving you the name of the object. So if I execute this, this is what the result is going to give. So if I go to debug only, it is going to give me all the objects. So account feed. So there are tons of objects in the Salesforce org. It is sorted in an alphabetical order and it is giving you back the response. Okay, so calendar is another object. So these are all the Salesforce objects that are available and I have access to. I got those lists. Any questions on this one?
So just the key set, when you do the key set, that basically it gets the name of
Keys.
the object and then the description gives the description of that object, right?
No. So this
No.
key set is giving you just the keys of the object. Okay. Then what you're basically using that key, that object name, and then doing a get describe on that. So it will give you more description about that object.
Okay, so when you say the key of the object, what is that, like the metadata or the?
No, key would
No,
be the object name,
Okay.
the API name of the object.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think it's the API name or the label, one of those. So if you go over to the definition, it tells you returns a map of the S object name. So names, it just returns you the name, and the values means this is going to be the value. So from the name, we are using that name to get more information about that object, specific object. And then we are checking, do I have access to that object? If I do, I'm adding it to here, and then we are sorting it.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody has any questions?
What are the values schema.so as object types?
So the values would be the complete information about that object.
Okay.
Okay, so if you see here schema dot of see if you this one dot of get object name, what will this give you? This will give you this thing as object type. Remember? This you're doing a get on that key, so it's going to give you the value. So S object type, we are using the getDescribe method of that class, and we are getting more information about that object,
Okay.
which is of the type describe S object result. Okay, this is just like, this code is always going to be fixed. Like, you probably just have to remember first get all the objects, then get all the fields, things like that. So this is how you get the object names. Now let's do another class where we will get all the fields of a particular object. So how will I do that? So in this case, get global describe that I explained you earlier, it returns all the objects that are available in the org. Get describe method that you have is basically giving you the metadata for the object, fetches metadata for each object. And is accessible is basically checking, does the current user has the read access on the object or not, is accessible to that object or not. Okay. Now, if you want to fetch all the fields of a given object, then let's go ahead and do that example. So far we have fetched all the objects. Now, if you know the object name, can you figure out all the fields? Yes. So there is a method to do that. So first we will go over here. File, new Apex class, object field util. And here is the method that I have. So let's understand what are we doing in this one. Okay. So this one, you will be onto this method, you will be passing the API name of the object. Okay, so you will be either passing account, or if it's a custom object, you will be passing shoe order __ C. Let's say if that's the object. Okay, then what we are checking, hey, are you passing that object name or not? If you're not, then basically we're returning empty list if it is blank. Then what we are doing is, if you remember, get all the objects in the org. You don't have to get that. So here what it is checking, give me again the same all objects, get global describe. Now it is checking in this global describe, does that object API name exist or not? If it doesn't exist, it will return empty list. If it does exist, okay, if it does exist, then what it is doing? It is doing the metadata on, fetch me the metadata for that object. Okay, and then it is checking if it is accessible. If it is not accessible, means I don't have access to the object, then it is returning the list empty again. So up till this point, it is just checking. First, what it is checking, if the API name that you're passing, is it blank? If it is blank, return. If it is not blank, then what it is doing, it is going ahead and fetching all the objects that are there in your org. Then it is comparing in this list, in this fetching all object, does that object name exist or not? Okay, that object name that you're passing into the method. If it exists, then it is checking, do I have access to it or not? Is accessible. Do I have access to this object name? That's what it is checking. If I don't have, then it is returning you empty list. If I have access, this is how you get the fields of that object. So object.describe is giving you metadata of this object, which is what you're passing. Then you're doing .fields.getMap. So it will give you a map of all the fields that are available in this object that you're passing in. So at runtime, I can pass account, I can pass lead, I can pass contacts, and based upon what object I am passing, it is going to fetch me the fields of that object. So fields.getMap is going to give you the fields for that particular object. Now, why is it dynamically? Because see, you don't know what the object API name I will be passing. So this is dynamically happening. If I hard-coded the object name, then I know that it is always going to be account. Here, I'm not hard-coding the object name. I can pass account, lead, contacts at runtime, right? So I got a list of all the fields that are available. Then I'm iterating over the keys of that map. So I'm getting a map of the field and that information of that field. So here is the get describe. So if I want more information of that particular field, I will use get describe. Then I'm checking, do I have access to that field? If I do, then I'm adding it to this field name, which is nothing but the list I created up on the top. Very similar to what we did for objects, but here we are fetching the fields of that object. Look at this code again and tell me if you didn't understand something from here.
How do you know? I mean, when you look at this code, in other
Mhm.
words, there's nowhere on it that says, obviously says dynamic on it anywhere. Is it
No,
just
it
the
doesn't
methods?
say dynamic,
Does
but
it say methods?
but
Just that?
see here, it doesn't say dynamic, but if you see here, you don't know what the object API name I'll be passing. Dynamic means something that keeps changing. What is the difference between the word static and dynamic? Static is like a constant, right? It will always be that
Right.
particular thing. Dynamic means it will keep on changing. So that's what it is, dynamic, because I don't know what object at the runtime I will be passing.
Okay, so it's
That's why it is called dynamic Apex, because it is figuring out everything at the runtime.
right, right. So, but I mean, just the then just the type of fields or whatever the type, whatever the case is running is determines whether it's dynamic or not. Basically, I mean, static object would have a static object in there, and it would state what it is. But since this
Exactly.
doesn't, that's why it's dynamic.
Yeah,
Is
because
that right?
see, okay, so let's understand the difference between dynamic and static. So if I knew account object was there, hard-coded account, and then I know, okay, on the account object, there is a field called name, there is a field called industry. I know all of that. So I can write a query, select name, comma, industry. So that is my code. This is a static code, right? I know I'm talking about account object. I know I'm talking about the name, field, and industry. So this is a static code. Dynamic is, it could be account. I'm not anywhere in this code I have said I'm talking about account. Have I written anywhere account? No, right? So, or I haven't talked about lead. So if I want to execute this code, so this code will work for any object. If you pass in the account object, it will fetch you the fields of account object. If you pass in the lead object, it will fetch you the fields of the lead object. If you pass in any custom object, it will fetch you the fields of that custom object. So it is figuring out at the runtime, but this code will work for any object you pass in.
Okay,
Okay?
and that's what determines that it's dynamic.
That's what
So
determines dynamic.
So in this case, maybe it would run a list on all the objects and all the fields. It wouldn't choose a particular one, right? I mean,
Come back
if
again.
in other words, if let's say you had 100 different objects, I mean, this code would be literally run this code
No.
on those
See, I
100
am
objects.
not passing a list of string. I'm passing one object name. This is a
Okay.
string. So this one, you will be passing one object. That object could be anything. So if I run this code, the way to run it is pretty much just like we did, is just calling the static method. And so here at runtime, I'm passing an account object, right? So it will give me the fields of the account object. So if I go
Okay.
to debug only, it is giving me all the fields that are available in the account. If I have changed this to lead, it is going to give me the lead object field. So here, if I go and do a debug only, now the result is different. It is giving, wait a minute. Oh, so this should be lead and execute. But if you see here, these are lead fields. Address, annual revenue, company, these are lead fields. Okay.
Okay.
And this is giving you account. So the same code gave you two different outputs depending upon what you pass to this method.
What the input? Okay.
Exactly. And the input is
Okay.
dynamic, right? Right now I'm hard coding it to lead, but let's say the input is coming from a UI where it's a pick list and the user has selected account one time, then the next time the user selected lead. So based
Okay.
upon the input, it's dynamic. The input is dynamic.
All right.
The output is also dynamic, right?
Yeah, it depends upon what the input is, but it's a
Exactly.
flexible type of code. It could go whatever the
Exactly. It
input.
is a flexible code. It will work for any object. That is why it is called as dynamic apex, because you don't know until runtime what the output is going to be.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Anybody else have any questions? So first what we did, we figured out all the objects. Then we figured out that objects that we got, does it contain the object that I'm passing? If it does contain, then I'm checking, do I have access to that object? If I have access to the object, then I'm checking, give me all the fields of that object by using this method fields.of_getMap. Okay, so this will give me a map of all the fields. And then I am checking more information on that field. Hey, do I have access to the field? If I have access to the field, then only add it to that list and then displaying that list using this code. Guys, are you following me? If you have any questions, please ask. I'm willing to repeat millions.
So the field is going to return, or object is going to return is depending on the user.
Exactly.
But-
So if I'm running this code, I'm a system admin, I am going to get everything. But if it's if another person is running this code, then the access to that will be determined by that user's access, the logged in user. Okay. Anybody has any other questions? Okay. Now, another one we have is, these are the 4 basic things you're going to do. You will fetch the objects, you will fetch the fields, you will fetch, let's say, pick list value for a field, or let's say the record types of that object, right? So those kind of things, maximum you're going to be doing. So another one is pick list util. Let's say if field is a pick list, you want the pick list values. Okay. So here is a class called pick list util, and we will go ahead and take a look at that. And over here, I am going to, let's see what it is doing.
So Deepika, maximum time we use this dynamic apex at our workspace?
You will use dynamic apex here and there, but not all the time. As I mentioned, 90% of the time you will use static code, static apex, but there is a possibility when you're creating frameworks like a trigger framework, you will be using dynamic apex. Okay. But this is an important topic to learn. So here, what am I doing is, this is my class called picklistUtil. And basically, it will return you back the pick list values for a particular pick list field. It's a multi-select also, or it is a regular pick list. It will work for both. So get pick list values is a method. It is a static method. It is returning you the list of string, and it takes in 2 parameters, the name of the object, the API name of the object, and the field for which you want the pick list values. Okay. So first we are checking if these 2 values are blank. If you are not passing anything, nothing will be returned. It will return you an empty list. If you are passing some value, you are first, what is this returning you? Tell me, I told you earlier, what is this returning? Schema.getGlobal describe.
Key set.
The objects.
Exactly, the objects. Key set I'm not using. This is giving you all the objects that are there in the org.
Yes, yes.
Then what am I doing? Then what is this method? What am I checking here? You need to know how to read the code now. We have done so much of this. What am I doing here?
Oh, the object that was passed in, if it
Object's name.
if it wasn't in that list.
Exactly. So I'm checking the object that I've passed. Is it available in this list, in this map? and it will be available as one of the keys, right? If it doesn't available, if it's not there, then returning null, empty values. If it's there, it will come to the next line. Now, what am I doing here?
I was checking if you have access.
The metadata
Metadata for what?
for the object
For
that we
that
just got.
specific
Object name. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, for that specific object only. And then
If that metadata from that object, we will get the fields, whatever fields.
no,
are
this
there.
is not the fields. Okay.
No, after metadata.
Yes. Now
Yeah,
I'm
get
getting all the
descriptor.
fields.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm checking the field that I'm passing from into this method. Does that field available in this map? If it is not, return empty. If it is there, then I'm checking, okay, give me more information about that field. Get describe, if you use it, it will give you metadata about that thing. If you do get describe on the object, it will give you the object metadata. If you do get describe on the field, this is a field, right? Then it will give you field information. So then what you're doing is you are checking what is the type of that field. Okay. Is it a pick list or is it a multi-select pick list? If it is none of these, then you will basically return empty values, because a pick list will only have values or a multi-select pick list will have values. But if neither one has values, then what it is going to do, it is going to return. And otherwise, it is fetching you all the pick list values. And it is giving you back the active values for that pick list. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody, guys, if you are not following me, then please speak up.
Is there a way to further modify this so you can tell which pick lists are used for what record type?
Okay, that's a very good question. So then you will have to write, first you have to get the record, then you will pass in the record type also. I've not done this one before, but you will be passing the record type you're interested in, and then you will see if that pick list has access, if that record type has access to the pick list. Okay, you can do that. You just have to write some other pieces of information, and I will show you how to get record types in the next example. But here what we're doing is it is going to give you that particular pick list values for that are available in that particular field. Okay.
Okay.
So get pick list values is going to give you all. So now let's say if industry is a pick list field on the account object, right? So I'm going to go ahead and run this code for the industry field that is available on the account. Account is the API name of the account object. Industry is the field name. So if I go ahead and execute this, it is going to give me dynamically, it is giving me all the values of the industry. Now, if I go ahead and change this and change it to lead, can you give me a pick list field for a lead object? I think lead is rating. Is rating a field on lead? Can anybody tell me? Yes, rating is a field that is giving you cold, hot, and warm. So depending upon what you have passed, your output will keep on changing. So now we saw how to get the objects, then we saw how to get the fields. Then we also saw how to retrieve the values of a pick list. Okay, so let me explain to you one more time. So get type is basically telling you what is the type of the field. Is it a pick list? Is it a multi-select pick list? Is it a integer, like it's a number field, what it is? If it is not pick list or if it is not multi-select pick list, then it is going to give you nothing. If it is a pick list, then it is fetching the pick list values for that pick list. Okay. And it is only checking, is that active pick list value. If it is active, then it is adding you to that values list, and it is adding the label of that pick list to this list, and it is sorting that list based on the alphabetical order, and it is returning you that list. Okay, and here you're calling that method, and you're passing in two things, the lead object and the field name. Any questions, guys? Can I proceed to the next thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Now, the next one we have is the record types. So if I want to figure out the record type utility, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over to the figuring out the record types that are available on the object. Okay. So this is the record type utils. And here I'm going to go ahead and close all of this. File, new, Apex class. Okay, now somebody needs to explain to me, what are we doing here? Okay. So I will explain later, but let's somebody else take the look at it. So what are we doing in this method, get record type IDs by name?
Well, you're passing in an object name to the method, and then you're initializing the map that you're going to use later on. And
Okay, come back again. So this is this is a map I'm creating. Very good.
and then line 7, you're getting the information on that object.
Very good, very good. Just that object, not the whole list, just that object.
Right.
Very good.
So let's see, if object result not equal null. So you're checking to see if you got a result from that. If you, so it's not null, so you continue. And so now this is using a method to get the record type.
Exactly. So the method that is there on this describe as object result is get record type info. So this method is going to give you record type information of that object. Doesn't matter what object it is. This method is going to give you whichever object you're talking about, the record types associated with that object. If you're talking about lead, it will give you the record types information about that lead object. If you're talking about contact, it will give you the record type information of contact. Then what you're doing, you're iterating over, this is a list. So iterating over all those record types one by one. And you're checking, is it an active record type and is it available? Means is it available for me or not? And then you are creating a map. Remember that map that you initialized at the beginning? You're creating a map of the name of the record type and the ID of the record type. Okay? And then you are just returning that map. So here, if I have to call this, I'm going to go ahead and call this by the map here, and then I'm going to do a debug on this one. Control C. And here is the account, debug only. So I only have one record type that is available on the account object. So if I go over to the account, and if I go over to the edit object, I only have one record type. So if you go here and you go to record types, there is only one, which is pretty much that master record type is there. So that's the only one. Let me see if I have other objects. Okay, so now this is one. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this object, shoe order. Let's see what will be the output in this case. So here, if I go ahead and debug it, and this time I'm passing shoe order, execute it, and let's see what the output is going to be. I'm expecting 2. You can see here domestic order. This is the record type ID. International order. This is the record type ID. And master is default for everybody. So that's the record type ID. Okay. So I got the result based on what object I am passing. So get record type infos is the one that will give you the record type info for that object. Any questions, guys?
Deepika, can you go up to line number 9? There is get object API now question mark. What does it do?
Oh,
It's not a ternary.
remember that ternary operator I told you?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is checking if this value that came is not null, then do a get describe on that. If it is null, then it is not going to give you anything. But if it is not null, then it is going to call the get describe method on the result of this.
Okay.
Okay? It's a shortcut to write. But it is the same ternary operator. If it's not null, then go do a get describe. Because if you do it on null, it is going to give you an exception called null pointer exception. So in order to avoid that, it is checking is the value present. If it is, then do a get describe on that. Okay. So now the next one, okay, now let's do an end-to-end project, okay, using this one. So I will be using LWC. I want to give you a glimpse of LWC. So if you are interested to join the class, and if you join, this is applicable to everybody. If you have not joined the LWC class, I'll give you a $25 off with the coupon code. I'll send it to you today, but it only will be active till Monday, means till tomorrow. So you'll have 2 days to redeem that coupon code of $25. So your fees will be less than $225, but it's only till tomorrow. You cannot come back to me on Tuesday and say, can I get that thing? So if you are interested to join LWC, make sure to join it before tomorrow, because that will help me to understand how many students will be there. It'll help me prepare the count. The timings would be, because the instructor is timings are different. So we probably thinking of around 8:30 p.m. So an hour early. So the class will not be at 10 o'clock, it would be at 9 o'clock. Okay, so 9 to 11. Right now we're doing 10 a.m. CST, it will be 9 a.m. CST. That's the timing. Okay, so if you're interested,
Next week onwards, right?
it will be next week onward.
Okay.
Okay, but if you join it, and if you can help me joining early, if you're already planning on it, better use this coupon code. I'll share it with you after the class, and then you can enroll in before Monday, and then you can redeem that, and we'll meet next Saturday. I'll be there. He'll be the one teaching you, but he will start with JavaScript. It is very, very important to know LWC as a Salesforce developer. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let me show you a glimpse of what we are building. So I built it in this another org. So here, let me log into the org, and this is Core Centara. Okay, so now let's go ahead, and I created this account here, and I just dropped a Lightning Web Component. Okay, so you can see here, basically Lightning Web Component is a JavaScript based language, scripting kind of based on JavaScript, and it is to build UIs. So far, we have written a lot of backend code, okay? Written batch classes. We have talked about dynamic Apex, made integration to the external system. Now, LWC where is to build a UI. If a client is asking to build a custom UI, then in that case, one of the option earlier was Aura components. Those have kind of gone outdated now. Now, most of them are written in Lightning Web Components. They're easier to write, easier to understand. So you can see here, this particular gives you list of all the objects that are there. Okay, so let's say I chose account from this list. Okay, so I list, then what is going to give me? It will give me fields of the account object. So this is dynamic, right? So behind the scene, what it is doing, it is calling our API, the one that we wrote, the get global describe. This is going to give you all the list of the objects which we talked about, get global describe. And then if the user has chosen account, it is going to give you account information. If the fields for the account, if the user has chosen lead, let's say we go ahead and select lead, then it will give you the field. So this is the ask. This is the ask asking you, and it also tells you, is this field creatable? Means can I like add a new value for this? Is it updatable? Can I update this field? So that's what it is checking, creatable and updatable. Okay. Now, if you want to know what is the creatable and updatable difference on global, on field dynamic Apex. Okay, so here this is the difference. So if you have a permission to edit that field to provide an initial value that is creatable, if that field already has value, and if you can update it, then that becomes, you have updatable permission as well. Okay. So did everybody understood what the ask is? So first we are showing to the user all the list of objects, and then based upon what object the user has selected, those fields will be displayed to the user. Okay. So how did I do this? So I have created a Lightning Web Component. We won't go into the details, but let's understand. This is my, I've created a LWC component. So LWC component always has three components. One will be the HTML file, which is basically where you will write the markup language, HTML. And then behind the scene, you will have a JavaScript tied to that HTML. And then through the JavaScript is where you will be making the call to your Apex class. So this is the whole end to end. So you will have an HTML which will show you, hey, I need a calendar here, or I need a text field here, or I need a date field here. That is where the code will go for the UI part. Like, how do you want? Do you want a table to be shown to the user? So that is HTML. Then you have is the JavaScript, which will basically will tie the HTML. And then through JavaScript is what will be making the call to the Apex class and retrieving the data from that Apex class and then showing it through the HTML. Are you getting my point? Guys, let me know if you want me to repeat.
Yes.
Okay, HTML, JavaScript, and then the Apex code. So inside of this HTML, what I have used is a combo box. Okay, so here the drop down, nothing but we are selecting an object. So if you go here the first time, if I refresh this page, this is what it is showing you. Choose an object, okay, and select an object. So this is the code here. This is a Lightning combo box. So its label is select an object, and placeholder is choose an object, and then it is showing you the values that it will show you is selected object, means whatever the object you have chosen, that is what will be the value, and options will be the list of options. Okay, And anytime you change the option, means from account you switched over to lead, it is going to call this method. So all these things are defined in this one line. Okay. So lightning combo box is nothing but this is how the lightning combo box looks like. This is a combo box. It's a pick list. Okay. Inside of that, it is going to label would be select an object. Value means whatever the value you have chosen will be stored in this selected object. And all the list of options that you see, the drop down, the list of options, that's what the option is going to be. And on change means anytime you switch from one object to the other, then it would be on change means this is the method that will be invoked. Okay, any questions up till this point?
So that on change method, that's just a standard thing that.
No, on change is basically like a listener. So anytime you are changing the values of this combo box, this is the method will be invoked. This could be anything. You can name the method whatever. I have named it as handle object change. But
Okay.
on change means anytime I'm changing the value on that combo, this is the method to call. Okay.
Okay.
Now, object options is, so what is this object options? What is this selected object? This is coming from your JavaScript. So here I declared selected object as one of the variable. Object option is nothing but a list or an array. Fields is also to basically fields is doesn't say anything. So ignore fields, we are using it later. And error to display any error, and is loading means to show that spinner or something like that. Okay. Now, how are you getting? So this is how you are tying the Apex class. Okay. So get accessible objects is the method available in the Object Explorer Controller class. So this is my class, Object Explorer Controller. Inside of this, I have a method which is called as, what is the name of the method? Get Accessible Objects. So if inside of this class, I have a method called Get Accessible Objects. So what is this method going to give me? And anytime you have to call a method from a JavaScript, you make it Aura enabled. Means it is enabled from LWC, and you make it cacheable equals to true. Means if the records can be cached. Okay, so Aura enabled is an important annotation if you are invoking this class from a Lightning Web Component. Okay, now what are we doing in this method? Now you tell me, what are we doing here? This is the method. What are we doing in this method?
That's what we were doing before.
Very good. Yeah.
The list of objects. Getting the list of objects, and let's see.
Checking whether the user has access to the object.
Very good. And if it is, then we are adding it into the
List.
So, yes, we are adding. So we are creating this list of object option. Now, what is object option? Object option is a inner class you have defined. So if you see here, nothing but object option has two things, API name and the label. That's what object option has. Okay. So you created a constructor. To that constructor, you're passing the API name and the label. And here you are get global describe key set. So now what we are doing here is we are creating the list of that object. Then we are doing a get global describe. This is going to return you all the objects. Then we are iterating over just the keys of that object, mean of this map, which is nothing but the API name of the object. And then we are doing a describe on that API name, which will give you metadata about that object. So if you want to check if I have access to it, if it's creatable, updatable, all of that, then I will use is accessible method. And if I have access to it, then I'm adding the that object basically to this list. and I'm returning that list. So that list that I'm returning is available in get accessible objects. So get accessible object has that list of it. Then what is get accessible fields? So what it is doing is it is calling the get accessible fields method, which is available. And to this method, you're passing in the API name. You see here, to this method, you didn't pass any API name. It's empty. Parameters, that the method doesn't accept any parameters. Over here, it is accepting a parameter. Okay. Now, how are you passing that parameter? See here, you are passing the parameter by, see here, get accessible fields. This is where you're calling it. And you're passing the object that you have selected. So one time you can select contact, the next time you can select lead. So whatever object you are selecting, you're passing that object, and the result that it gave you back, you're storing it in data. So whenever it sees get accessible fields, it will call the get accessible fields method of this class. Now what it is returning, pretty much the same thing. It is, instead of returning the object's information, it is returning the fields that are tied to that object. Okay, we have already seen this code, and it is returning it in this format because just it's not only returning you the name of the field, it is returning you the label of the field. It is returning you the type of the field, means is it an integer field, pick list, what it is. It is returning you if it's creatable or updatable. So if you see here, the output is different. So if we go to contract, it tells you the API name, it tells you the data type, it tells you if it's creatable, if it's updatable. Okay, 5 pieces of information it is returning. So what we have done is we have basically created a list of that class, field info DTO, data transfer object DTO. So this is what it has. It has API name, label, data type is creatable, updatable. And then you are just setting up these values. And this is your constructor, and you're setting up the values here. And then any questions up till this point?
I noticed that for those fields, when you're initializing those fields or creating them, you have to have that @Aurora enabled annotation
Where?
on line like 16.
Yeah, because see here, you are making it available on the JavaScript side. So you're showing it through this through the UI.
Okay.
Here, API name, data type, creatable, updatable. So you made it Aura enabled. Okay. So now what we have done here is, so far we have only talked about this combo box. You selected an object. Now, once you selected the object, handle object change. Now let's understand what is this handle object change. Handle object change is this method, and it basically picks up what value you have selected in that combo box, and then it is passing that same value to this get accessible fields and giving you back the result. Okay? The data. And the data is nothing but this dot fields. Now, what is this fields? Fields has all the columns. This has, the field has a label, like in the data table, if you see, this is your data table. The next one is, this is just to show errors and loading. We don't have to worry about that now. This is showing you fields for this object, and then data table. Columns that this table will have is nothing but these columns. Field label, API name, data type, creatable, and updatable. So that's exactly what you have here. Field label, API name, data type, creatable, and updatable. So that's the column the data table has. So data table is nothing but it's showing you in a form of table. Okay. And then what it is showing you, the data is nothing but that is coming from the fields, which is what data is coming from the fields. So if you see here, that's not the one I need. Data is nothing but it is coming from, this is the data that it is showing. So that's the data, and that's the data you are showing in this table. And that's pretty much it. So that's the handle object change. So you have 2 components on the UI. One is a combo box and the other is a table. Combo box will show you on all the time, and the table will show based on what you have selected in the combo box. When you load the page, all you see is a drop down, which is this is the choose an object. It doesn't show you the data table because data table is only going to be visible if you select a particular object, and based on that, it is showing you the fields. So this is a whole end-to-end integration where you have a HTML page. On the HTML page, you have the markup language to show a combo box and a table. Then you have a JavaScript, which basically handles the code for the HTML. And through the JavaScript, you are invoking the Apex class. And that Apex class basically is that Apex class is making the call to the methods, it's giving you back a response, and that response you are showing it through the HTML. Any questions up till this point? Look at this code and tell me what did you not understand. And this is your control. The controller class is the same like we've been building so far, and it just have the methods to the get global describe and all that.
You're going to update or add this to our folder so we have.
Yes, I will update it right now. So let me go ahead and do that. I will update all the documents that I have, and then I'll upload the video by tomorrow. Let me go ahead. But did everybody understood? Because this is just a giving you, I haven't gone into the detail because that's what you're going to learn in your LWC class. But I gave you a 30-foot view of how things will be done in the real world. You'll have an LWC, you will have a Apex class time. Now that Apex class can make a call out to another system, also get you the result, show it in the LWC. Now you can come up with any scenarios you want, but the logic remains the same. The baseline remains the same. Okay. So if I go here to Drive and let me go to the Salesforce developer training and notes. And here I'm going to upload. Let me close this.
How many weeks will the LWC class last?
I would say at least 6 weeks.
Okay.
Then it depends upon how many, what level everybody, but we are hoping if it's 6 weeks should be good enough.
Deepika, do we need HTML and
HTML, do you guys know HTML? It's pretty basic. It's not like, have you ever done, have you ever used HTML before? Or this is the first time seeing HTML?
yeah.
First time.
First time? So you
Yeah.
have 1 week to prepare because HTML is the best way to learn HTML. I think it was W3 schools. That's it. You can practice it along with. You don't have to know in depth, but little bit of HTML. Like okay, if you want to create a title, try it yourself. Then you will go ahead and go over to how to add a button. So this is the code to add a button. I will ask the JavaScript. I know the instructor will cover, but I'll see if he wants to do a quick 20 minutes on HTML also that day.
Will we be doing any CSS?
like basic CSS, like adding colors, sizing, all of that. Okay. So see, the main purpose here is not to make you an expert in a JavaScript or HTML. Basically the agenda is to make you a Salesforce developer. And as a Salesforce developer, what all you need to know from LWC, that will be covered. From Salesforce perspective, you're not a front-end developer. You're not the one working with too much of CSS or anything. From how to basically use LWC to build components. That's what he will be teaching.
So, yeah, one general question. Actually, in other fields, they say like front-end developer, back-end developer, right? So in
Yeah.
Salesforce also the same, or the
No, in
developer
Salesforce, you don't have a front-end or a back-end developer. In Salesforce, there is only one developer, which is Salesforce developer. And he is the one supposed to do everything.
So he must know LWC too, right?
Yes, he must know LWC also. Because LWC, see, Apex is just the backend, right? We talked about Apex, we talked about the what do you call the backend part of it. But now you have to learn about the LWC. That's when everything will come together, front end and back end. But as a user story, if a story is given to you, they're not going to ask you, are you a front end developer or no? You're a Salesforce developer, you should know LWC.
Are there going to be any weekday classes? I mean, for
No, he's only going to be doing weekends.
weekends. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not doing any more weekday classes anyway, like this next coming week, right? For
This
anything?
coming week, I'll have weekdays. I have that batch, the weekday batch.
Okay, and that will be continued for just what, this next week, or?
No, I think we probably will take another week or two because I do have certain topics. 2 weeks syllabus is still left
Okay, great.
in the weekday one.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So how did you think about this training? Was it helpful? Was it not up to the expectation? Let me know the feedback, because until you tell me the feedback, I won't have anything to improve.
I think it was a lot of information, a lot of good information.
Okay,
But
so
a lot.
I tried to consolidate a lot
Yeah.
of things in a
Yeah.
short span of time, because
Mhm.
to have the momentum for 2-3 months is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot from an instructor. It takes a lot from the students. But I tried my best to cover as much as possible. Integration was not something I planned for, but I kind of went ahead and I said, okay, people should know how integration works also. I will recommend you, rather than going through the recordings, guys, the one that I'm teaching you, if you go through my courses, would be much better and consolidated. One course I will recommend you is the Platform Developer one. So rather than going through the trainings, the live trainings, demo recordings, this is just my recommendation. It's up to you what you want to do. So if you go here, the couple of things, integration, I've been telling you, the first course, integration with external system, and in Salesforce development, I'll tell you the Platform Developer 1 course, which is this one, Platform Developer 1. Those are the 2 courses. If you start from now, take at least a month, you will be in a good shape. And LWC, he'll do a good job, because I have interviewed many instructors and he was one of the best. And he not only has a full-time, but he also takes projects on the side for LWC and stuff as a Salesforce developer. So he's very good in LWC. His communication is good. But if you have any doubts about him, do let me know after the first class itself that, hey, I don't think this instructor is going to work for me, all of that. Okay. So, but I'm assure you he's one of the best.
Do you have a developer 2 course or just developer 1?
Developer 1.
Just developer 1. Okay.
Yeah. Guys, any feedback, as I mentioned yesterday, also will highly be appreciated. If you have to talk to me, you can let me know. We can set up a time. We can talk about it. But let me stop sharing and let me share the coupon code, okay? The coupon code for the 1 second.
Deepika, do you remember someone was going to walk the
Oh, the
version
Ravi,
control.
Ravi,
Yeah.
he hasn't been attending the calls recently. I'll text him and see if he is available and try to book that consultation. He just stopped attending for some reason after Christmas.
Yeah.
I'll text him. So we have how many of you from this group have already paid for LWC and how many have not?
I have paid.
Okay.
I've paid
Register
also.
already.
Okay. Okay. So 3 I have done. And how many is expecting to join?
I will join.
I am.
Okay, 2. Let me see.
I'm still in confusion.
Okay, Mehima, we're gonna
Yeah.
talk anyway.
Yeah,
So
so
let's
yeah.
see. That's not a problem. Courses. Mm.
Hema, I would say without the LWC, developer job is difficult. I mean, they are going to ask you both the things. I mean, that's my experience. So
Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely, if it's Salesforce developer, you need, but I think Hema probably, uh, we'll talk, Hema. And if anybody else wants to talk about the training, do let me know. I'm giving you a.
Are there any programs where you become like a, like a junior programmer, like projects you can work on, like that maybe you're not hired to do, but like you know, for organizations or something like that? Anything that you could start to build your skills on? You know what I mean?
So, okay, so Linda, let's start with all the assignments I gave. Did you do those?
No, I'm doing those, but I'm just saying later on after we get past your,
Yeah.
your course. I'm saying later on, is there any way that, in other words, more areas you can continue to build your skills on projects, any outsourcing that you know of?
The outsourcing is there, like the what do you call is those Salesforce has these nonprofit, but it's hard to get into it, to be honest with you. Like I've
Okay,
applied, people have applied, but it's hard. It's just that if you can come up with your own scenarios and you can use
okay,
ChatGPT to come up with your own scenarios and build portfolio based on that will be much better
okay,
than going after those. You can try joining those nonprofit, but it takes a while to get into them.
okay.
Can anybody check this coupon code if it's working? I did create it.
I don't see it.
I'll send it to you. I'm gonna send it in the developer training.
Oh, in the WhatsApp.
Yeah, in the WhatsApp, that's the coupon code. And you just have to choose the training LWC from the drop down. So live training, and then anybody can try and just put the coupon code in there and see if that's working. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, anybody?
But this says the link went to go from 0 to,
Yeah, so if you go to reserve my seat, click on that reserve my seat thing.
uh, okay. Okay, so check the LWC,
Yeah.
add to cart.
And then there should be a place to put the coupon code.
It works 249 minus 25, 224.
Okay. Okay. It works. Awesome. I just want to make sure. So thank you guys. And if there is anything later on you found out, hey, I need a class on something extra, don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
you.
much. Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for all the help.
Oh,
Yes.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.